everyone, it's Mike here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I thought I would play with this new, or the first of a new line of surfaces. So this is a 5.5 inch by 7.5 inch surface. So cut from the 3mm MDF, the Medite. You have the frame, the insert piece, and the backing board, which matches. So when they're stuck together, you've got this lovely three-dimensional surface in which to create your kind of mixed media compositions is the word I'm trying to find. So today I just thought I would play with this, just do a basic kind of composition with some resin pieces that I've got in my stash, and then we can have a play with just decorating it in a basic way. So I fancy the idea of doing black and silver today, or black and gold, or something like that, or maybe old iron, something along those lines. And I'm just trying to find my grab and go glue. There it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick this surface down first. So what I'll do is I'll just grab some of this glue. Now then, is this a new one? Does it still have the stopper in? Yes, it does. So I would have been trying to get that glue out for a good long time. Oh dear me. So let's just put some of that glue on the bottom there. So this grab and go glue from Indigo Blue was specifically designed to work with the grey board and the MDF kits that we've been releasing through Indigo Blue with the rainy days, the K's Crafternoon kits, which are very similar to my Crafternoons, if you like. So, like I said, cut from 3mm MDF, the Medite, which is the water kind of resistant one. So it was originally designed as a marine kind of MDF to be used in on boats and then in bathrooms and that kind of stuff. And then it got started to get used for outside stuff as well. So just trying to line up that front. There we go. Just give that a little bit of a squidge down. So if you want to, you can just grab yourself a small brush and just remove those bits of, I'm just trying to make sure that this doesn't move once you've actually got it down. There we go. Those bits of excess. There we are. Excess glue that's coming out, but to be honest, you don't really need to, because they'll dry completely transparent. That's it. Let's make sure we line those up. All right, I'm going to leave that just for a minute or two, just to grab. There we go. And then I'm going to just sort out this hanging mechanism. So this is a hanging tab. So you get this with the kit as well. So all you do is just pop out that piece there and then pop out the two squares like that, and then that can be thrown. And then if you want to, you can grab an emery board, but you don't really need to because this is going on the back anyway. A little bit of glue there, a little bit of glue there. And I recommend, if you're going to use the hanging mechanism to hang your little composition up afterwards, do this sort of first, because once you've got that glued down or glued together, you can put it to one side, and by the time you've finished your canvas and your composition, then it'll be dry. Simple as that. Let's get rid of that because that's just going to get in the way, isn't it? And then let me grab a wet wipe. Okay, that's the only time I'm going to be using that glue today, because for the rest of it I'm going to start using the super thick Slap It On from Indigo Blue. Now this is a thick gel medium, again completely clear, and it will dry see-through but glossy, which is why I want to stick things down before I start painting. But I do want to add a little bit of black just inside that frame before I start sticking things down, because it's going to make it a bit more difficult to get the brush underneath if we don't do that beforehand. So how are we doing with this? Has that grabbed? Has it moved any? Yeah, I think we're pretty much there now. So that'll just wipe off. Lovely stuff. All right, so black gesso. Give it a shake up. Grab a paintbrush. And then I'm just going to start going around the inside. So depending on your colour scheme for what you want to create, then obviously depends on what colour gesso you use. I do advise a coat of gesso, or at least a coat of a primer. You can just use any kind of acrylic paint really. Will work just as that primer layer. And then if you want to, you can come across and start getting in if you're happy that the glue is dried. But I'm just going to leave that for a bit longer. Okay, so this, if you wanted to, you could use this as a template for any kind of image that you want to put in the middle. You just lay it over the top and draw a line and cut it out, then you know it's going to fit, or leave a little bit of a gap all the way around. Or you can use it to create an aperture to lay over, and then you could, if you wanted to have some texture in the background, use it as kind of a mask for that. But otherwise that's a bit surplus to requirements, but it is useful as a template, or you could actually build your composition on that and then just drop it in at the end if you want to. I kind of like to have the idea of it just being a little bit raised inside that little cavity there, but that's just me. Right, I'm going to get that dried off and then I'll be right back. So it's been a few minutes, so that gesso is dry. So what I'm going to do, and also the glue that's holding it down is also dry enough now. That's not going to go anywhere. So I am going to give it a coat of black gesso, get into all those nooks and crannies, and then just go all the way around with that first base coat. I knew I shouldn't have put the brush in the water. Didn't really need to. It's not been that long. All right, so let's grab some gesso. And you can go around the outside if you want to. I mean, there's nothing stopping you as well, if you're feeling that way inclined, in using some texture paste just to give it a little bit of additional dimension in that aperture there. Pretty poosh today, aren't we, the aperture? In the opening. I mean, you could even go over the top if you're feeling that way inclined. Now the problem, I won't say the problem, when you're doing these kind of like mixed media canvases, if you've ever watched, you know, people like Finnabair Prima and, you know, those kind of compositions, is that you can go mad. You really can go mad if you want to, and add everything on these compositions. You can add loads and loads and loads and loads of elements and different things, and, you know, bits of metal findings and resin pieces and all that kind of stuff. And you can go, you know, you can go layer upon layer upon layer. But sometimes I find that it's, you know, there's just too much, and it's too much of a, I won't say too much of a distraction, but there's so much on the canvases that it kind of just gets overwhelmed. Whereas I favour a less is more kind of approach. I do like, you know, different things, different levels, different dimensions, but I don't, you know, I don't really go in for beads and glitter. I don't like using things like micro beads and those kind of like seed beads and stuff in my projects, because I don't feel as though they're environmentally friendly, particularly if they get into, you know, the water table or the water chain and that kind of stuff, because you never get every bit stuck down, so you always end up with some loose bits that get swept off into the bin, and then the next minute your bin's going into landfill, and the next minute seagulls are eating it, and the next minute, you know what I mean? There's so much plastic in the ecosystem at the moment that I don't really think you need it. I really, really don't think you need it. But that's just my opinion. You know, you might think different or feel different about it, and that's fine. My personal preference is I don't like to use them because of that reason. But, you know, horses for courses, and vive la différence, if you get me drift. Okay, so I'll just get that dried off and then I'll be right back. All right, so I may have missed a few bits, but I'm not too worried about that. And I will go around the outside when it's all done, just to give it that little final kind of flourish and that final little finish. So what I've got here is just, I went through my resin leftovers, if you like, and I've got all these from different times that I've done stuff, and I thought, well, I'll just use up a few bits and pieces from here, because why not? Because, you know, why not? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that super thick Slap It On. And again, remember that this stuff will dry completely clear. So if you've got any squidged out, don't worry about it, because you can just blend it away once it's dry. And then we're also going to be painting with the gesso again. Should we do it so the cross is pointing upwards? There we go. And then, now normally I would do something like this with the hot glue gun, but the last few times I've used the hot glue gun, I've ended up burning myself. So I decided not to this time. All right, so bring that down here. And then I'm going to add, now then, in this little circle here, this clock fits in that hole, but I thought maybe just pop in a little flower, or keep the flower there, and then pop that clock in. I think we'll pop the clock in, just because. Stick a little bit of that on. Now then, I need to try and do it so that I get the clock, so it's almost telling it's the right way up. So we've got the 12 at the top. And again, if you're concerned, you know, just get a little brush and some water and then just brush away that excess glue if you don't like it. And a lot of this will be covered up anyway. But you know, keep knocking it. It just depends on how, you know, how much of a perfectionist you are, really. There we go. And then, now that I've got 2 cherubs out, but I don't know whether I want to use that one up there. Actually, it's a bit scabby, that, isn't it? That's not very well formed. And that one's got a hole missing in its nose. I may just get a new one out from there. Or I could just put this other little crowning piece up there. Or while that's still there, maybe just swap that over. Yeah, actually, I think I like that one better there. So it's going to be one of those kind of projects where you kind of move stuff around, just audition pieces, and then see what you feel looks better. Yeah. All right, so the next bit then is I want these dragonfly wings to go about there, and then we're going to have that little moon face. So I may just need a couple of small bits. So let me just grab my big container that's got all my bitses in and see what we've got. Now I've got one that's got some leaves on, I think. Yes. So just a couple of small leaves will do it. Alright, so these will disappear. You won't see these at all. These are just packing pieces. So let's just about there. Actually, it's not deep enough. They're not deep enough. Yeah, right, so maybe we have to end up maybe using those flowers then. Is that deep enough? That's deep enough. And what about that cog? Yeah, they're both deep enough. Fantastic. Definitely one way to use up your bits. Okay. All seems to be sticking down quite nicely. So again, let's just grab some of the gel medium, and then I'm going to put a blob on there. And then a blob on the top there, just so that I know there's enough. Alright. And then again. And then just adjust the wings. I don't want to get my head in the shot. That's the one. We like that. We like that a lot. Right, so what I also need is another little packing piece. So let's just see what we've got. Have we got a little disc of some description? Yes, we do. So we've got this little, what looks like Michelangelo's David. Like a little cameo. Here, look at that. Always goes butter side down, doesn't it? Let's just stick that on that piece there. Again, like we said, this is going to be, it's a packing piece only. I might just need another bit underneath there. Like you'll never see it. So let me just turn that around. How are we doing with that? There we go. Spot on. Spot on. And then we're going to stick that crown piece there. Once we've got that down. Now this is where those cherubs came in. Yeah, I think we'll have that cherub. All right, so let's just glue this one down first of all. Or shall we get that crown down? Let's get the crown down. This is kind of like one of those stream of consciousness creations where I kind of know what I'm doing. I've got some kind of picture in my head as to how I wanted it to look, but whether it actually turns out that way, that's another matter altogether. Yeah, I've put that in the wrong place now, haven't I? See, this is the beauty while it's still wet, as you can remove. That's it. So that's there. And then we'll put a fairly decent dollop on the back of the kind of moon face, all the way across to this side where the wings are, just to make sure we get everything where it needs to be. With some minor adjustments, of course, along the way. Just adjusting the wings a little bit. There's always a little bit of a dance, just as you adjust stuff. I'm just trying to get it so it's even. There we go. It's like a basic composition, and then we can get that cherub. and then that can sit up top there. Cool, I think. Turn that around a bit. All right, I think now what we need to do is I need to leave that for a good half an hour or so until that gel medium has started to go off and before we do anything else to it. Now you can see the face a bit better there. All right, so it's been a good hour or so since I glued all this down. These are almost glued totally, but they're glued enough for me to be able to go around now and completely cover with gesso. So I'm going to start at the top. Cover everything, including the cherub, and at this point you've got that opportunity to just go back around, and if there was any of those other areas in the base that you missed earlier, you can now get in there with your brush and start covering with that gesso. So this is just going to be one of those boring 15 to 20 minute kind of jobs where all I'm doing is just painting everything with the same colour. I said actually boring is probably the wrong word. Just repetitive, but not necessarily boring, but just repetitive. So what I'll do is I'll not whip off, that sounds wrong. I shall go on to fast forward mode. There you go. That's better, fast forward mode. And just cover everything with at least one coat of gesso, because once we've got one coat done, it's going to shine a light on all those areas where we just maybe need to just go in with a few spotlights just to kind of clear any little white flecks that may still be showing. It's easier to spot it once it's all dry than while it's wet, because while it's wet you've got the shine. When it's dry it's matte and flat, and while it's wet you can't see whether or not the shine is a gap and a space you've missed, or whether it's just a bit of wet material, a bit of wet paint. So it's always better to do one coat first and then come back in. You can see where you've missed a lot easier. Trust me. Alright, so just be aware that your resin pieces, if you are using resin pieces, will still be a bit warm. So I've been able to just spot a couple of places. So there's just a little bit on the wing there and over here on the edge of the frame where I've missed a bit. But apart from that, I think I've done all right. Oh, a bit behind the angel's wing there, the cherub's wing. But apart from that, I think I've managed to catch nearly everywhere. So I'm pretty pleased with the way that's turned out. So what I'll do is I'll just give that another blast with a heat gun, get tidied up, and then we'll start adding some of that metallic wax. All right, so nearly done. So originally I said I was gonna do it maybe like in old silver or something like that. Instead, I'm gonna dust off, I don't know whether the camera's picking that up, brushed iron. There we go. Instead, something a little bit more old-fashioned. So I'm just going to pick some of the wax up. This is an old one, so, and then we can start to layer it. You can see it just starts to pick up that colour straight away. And this is where sometimes you think, well, perhaps I should have put maybe some faux rivets around the outside. That's still moving a little bit, but that's okay. Some faux rivets to create some interest on the outside. Like I said, you can if you want to. I'm just feeling in a bit of a less is more mood today. That and the fact that I don't particularly like doing too much on fast forward. I enjoy the more long form kind of project. And if I started adding in loads and loads of like faux rivets and screw heads and all that kind of stuff on the frames, you find that it probably would take a long time, a real long time. It'd be like over an hour. And I know I've done videos over an hour in the past, but trust me, nobody likes them. Well, a few people do. I mean, come on. That's just cool, isn't it? What's not to love? All that fabulous kind of texture that we can see. Absolutely love it. We're not done quite yet. Not quite yet. Okay, so I've got rich copper. Same company, still Finnabair. And I'm just putting a little bit on my mat here. So what I want to do is I'm just going to try and just warm it up a little bit. Just by adding just a few little bits of warmth. I don't want to do a huge amount. and it's just a suggestion of warmth, just to give it a little bit of depth. And it also just helps just to, again, we've used the phrase sell the illusion in the past quite a lot. But just doing a little mixture of warm copper almost kind of gives it a little bit of a rusty look. Now normally you don't get like that copper oxide verdigris on iron, you would just get rust, but you know, artistic license and all that if you wanted to. But I'm just going to stay away from any of that kind of faux patina and just stick to, I'm hoping the camera is picking some of that up, that just that little bit of warm kind of coppery highlight. Just see if I can warm that bit across the top there. I'm just going really gently. Really gently. And I'm just picking up the smallest amount. There we go. Just the smallest hint. And I think I'm going to leave it there. So I'm just going to let that dry for a second or two, and then I'll bring in a little bit of cleaner. So what I normally like to do is wherever I've put the wax down on my worktop is I'll just spray it with a little alcohol. And that usually brings it off the work surface and also cleans the brush at the same time. So if you ever wondered how to get wax off your work surface, now you know. So there's one other little thing that you could do if you wanted to, and if you have got it, is you could always come in with your sepia and just add some of that into the background if you wanted to. Or if you really wanted to, you could then come back in and just give it a little bit of a highlight whiz over with a bit of that white if you wanted to, but I don't want to do that. I just want to stop what I'm doing right where I am because I'm really happy with the way that's turned out. So all I need to do now is just to flip it over like so, and then I've got my hanging mechanism. Now, I did say earlier that I didn't need that glue anymore, did I? Yeah, right, well, we'll just have to rake it back out again. Oh, did I just put it on the top? I did, that's all right then. Right, so like I said, I've stuck on the two squares on the back of the hanger. So you want it so that that V shape is facing downwards that way, because that's where your hook will stick. And then all you need to do is just to take a blob of glue on either of those and then put it on the back Obviously you can try and get it as near to the middle as possible and try and keep it level, like so. Just wipe that off. 35. Just put that on there like that. That should stay in place. It should grab enough. And then I can come back to that, maybe a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, and then theoretically it'll be ready to hang. So I'll see you in a little while. So it's been about a quarter of an hour and the hanger has now dried enough that we should be able to just, if I can get it lined up. There we go. Hang it on the wall. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. And don't forget, you can access your exclusive angel-only content over on my website. There's a link in the description area below. Thank you.